Hey everybody, it's Brandy with Eternal Harvest Home Decor, and today I'm here to show you how I built this A-frame trestle table base. This is a part one to a two-part video. I will not be including the tabletop process in this video at all, so if you're interested in that, stay tuned for that at a later date. Otherwise, this is a beginner to intermediate level build. And because of that, I'm going to be including a lot of pocket hole joinery as the joinery technique throughout this video. I feel like that's a really good place for beginner woodworkers to start. If you have any questions about the pocket hole system that I'm using called Kreg Jig, you can check that video out here. I have a tutorial, or I'll put a link in the description below. I do move pretty quickly at the beginning of this video, and if you have any questions about the process at all, please shoot a comment down below, or you can send me an email. I'm always happy to answer any questions that I can. Otherwise, thanks for tuning in. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and let's get on with the video. Okay, here are some things you are absolutely going to need. You're going to need a drill and a pocket hole system. I use the Kreg Jig K4. You can use whatever you have. You're going to need 2-inch and 2.5-inch screws that go with the Kreg Jig system. You're going to need a square and some wood glue, that's Titebond, a miter saw for sure, and then grab some 4x4s. These are just dug fir 4x4s. Find the driest and straightest you can. Move your miter saw to a 10-degree bevel. I will include a shopping list and materials list below, but what you're going to do is take that 10-inch bevel and you're going to cut the end off of your 4x4, and these are going to be the legs, so you want the bevel to be parallel, which means going the exact same direction. And I cut these about 25.5 inches long, end to end parallel bevel. I had a malfunction and lost some of my footage, but here you can see the bevel is parallel, and this is the 25.5 inches. Then the cross piece is going to be 28.25 inches, and the bevel is not parallel. Those are the most crucial parts to this build, or at least to the cutting process of this build. It's what creates the A-line look on the trestles. And overall, this table will be 6 feet long and 36 inches wide. Then you're going to take those pieces, if you have a planer, over and plane each piece down to give it a nice clean square look. If you do not have a planer, you can just use your sander. Okay, this is where things get a little bit tricky because the K4 Kreg Jig system does not come ready to use on 4-inch or 4x4 3.5 inch by 3.5 inch stock. So what you're going to want to do is unscrew this top piece, set your drill bit to 2.5 inch depth here. And if you're curious about how to use the Kreg Jig system, I'll post a link to a video that I did for beginners on how to use the pocket hole system. But you want to set that to 2.5 inches, and you're going to pull this piece completely out of the base. You're going to mark it 1.5 inches back, should be right here. And that is where you're going to set up your Kreg Jig with your Kreg top piece here, the drill bit, and then a C-clamp. Kind of hard to do one-handed. Make sure that C-clamp is on really tight. It will try to wiggle on you. And that's how you do it. Now I drill 2 pieces or 2 holes on one side. Flip your stock, do the exact same thing on the other side. Once everything's Kreg jigged, you are ready to assemble. I use a little bit of glue at each seam, every single piece. And I marked the cross pieces up 3 inches from the footing. So that's where that cross piece is assembled. And then I just attached the top from there. It's pretty easy assembly because the cuts are already made. And then you're going to want to attach one really long cross piece down the middle depending on the length of your table. This one is 48 inches because the table is going to be 6 feet overall. So that gives me a 1 foot overhang on both sides. So consider the length that you're trying to make and do the math. Just remember to take away your 3.5 inches on either side for the trestle. Then you're going to need to add cross pieces here and here for strength. So I went ahead and cut those at the same dimension, 48 inches. Pocket hold the ends there. I'm also checking for leg depth because I'm making some benches to go along with this table. Then you're going to pocket hole each side. I just used 2x3s for the cross pieces here on either end. I feel like they add a lot of stability. They're a little bit cheaper and they look great. They look just like the 2x4. So pocket hole the ends there and attach. Now you're going to need one more cross piece down the middle, a 2x4, and that's where your 4x4 vertical V shape pieces will attach to, which is why you need to install this. So I cut a 2x4 at 48 inches, and now I'm going to measure and install that directly down the middle so that it lines up perfectly with the 48-inch piece that's below it. Okay, now we're going to move on to the V shape that goes in the middle of the trestle. And to figure out the degrees of bevel here is a little bit tricky. Depending on the size of your table, it changes your bevel. So something to do that makes it really easy is to take your 4x4 and just lean it up against the table at the bevel that you think looks good. Once you've done that, you can mark both the bottom and the top and take it over to your miter saw. Now I have a laser miter saw, so I can just match those lines up. If you don't have a laser, you're gonna have to match it up with the blade itself, but that will tell you the degree of bevel that you need to cut. And it's also a parallel cut. So once you have your first one, I take it back over to the table, I rest it there, and mark the top again. And that's it. Once that's done, you can glue. I'm using some Titebond wood glue, and I use spack screws, 2.5-inch screws, to attach these 3x3s, 4x4s into place. You don't need a pilot hole because you're using the spacks, which are self-drilling. And that'll allow the glue to dry and hold those pieces right where they need to be. Next, you're going to want to use some wood glue to go ahead and fill all the pocket holes that are visible. You're going to give that about 30 minutes to an hour to dry, and then you can sand and get it prepped for primer. For sanding, I usually start with an 80 grit sandpaper, and I move up to about a 120. With sandpaper, the lower the grit, the more coarse the sandpaper will go. So you want to start at a lower grit and move upwards as you finish up. A 120 should make it ready for primer. Now, since this is a beginner build and most people don't have paint sprayers, I went ahead and used my favorite primer with a spray can. It's the Zinsser Bullseye, and I'll attach the info below in the description. It covers knots and keeps everything covered really nicely. It's one of my favorite primers. And lastly, I used a Rustoleum white satin spray for the finish. Thanks so much for watching, you guys. I hope you enjoyed this video. As always, let me know if you have any questions or comments. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and we'll see you next time.